ఎత్తిన విరసం జెండా అలలలలుగా వరదలొస్తు పోరు పోరు జెండా.
First of all, to invite me here and make me part of this gathering. Thank you very much, Civil Liberties Committee. Also to pulling me out of this dark hole of North India where I live and I report on, where I see day in and day out the murder of democracy, the assault on constitution, a complete lack and disregard for any constitutional norms. I'm sure South India has its own set of problems, but whenever I come here, whenever I get the opportunity to come to South India, I feel better, softer, nicer, and also safer. So thank you very much. And I'm sorry about my inability, not that I don't understand your language and I also don't speak one. Are you all comfortable in English? Do you understand English well, all of you? Do you also understand Hindi? Okay, okay, that's great to hear. English is better, right? Okay. So I said when I got this invitation, I was quite excited and happy that I will be talking to people who understand my language. My language as in the language of my ideas. People who think like me, whose way of life is similar to mine. Otherwise, trust me, when you live in North India and you are reporting from there, sometimes you feel like you are eccentric, one crazy person. Because you are so alone in this whole mayhem of people who no more believe in, I would say many of them, I'm not going to say all of them, many of them no more believe in the founding principles of our country. So when I got the invitation, I thought the whole process of, me speaking, you listening to me, you speaking, I listen to you. So this whole process gives hope, it gives light, it gives faith, and I feel at the end of the day, you feel you've been able to heal a lot of wounds. The wounds caused to Indian Constitution, democracy, rights, liberties, and also to your soul. So thank you very much, first of all, for organizing this. And I also want to particularly thank the Civil Liberties Committee for the wonderful, spectacular work that they have been doing for the past half a century. I mean, for a nation's life, 50 years is nothing, but for a human, this is maybe all of our lives, right? How much we get to live, 50 years, 60, 70, perhaps 80. So I would say 50 years time is all of the life of a human. So thank you very much for protecting rights of people like me, protecting liberties of people like me. Otherwise, the kind of social background, the religious background that I come from, I'm not supposed to be your equal even. I'm not supposed to be standing here and speaking my mind. So people, the leadership of civil liberties and human rights and civil liberties organizations, they came before me, even before I came to this world, and protected my rights and liberties and enabled me, gave me the space, created the space for me so that I could come and speak. And today you see me, this disempowered citizen I could have been, that today I have the power of information. Today I have an opinion. Today I have a public voice. And above all, you all have given me the courage to air my opinion and my voice. So thank you very much. Deep gratitude that you struggled for my rights, for people like Professor Saiba, who's sitting here, who created space for women like me, that I could stand here and speak. And sometimes these meetings may look like routine meetings, that okay, it is their job to, organize such programs. But trust me, it gives a lot of hope. It creates an environment where more people think on their own. And I think thinking is something that we in India are not doing much. Rather, I would say, if you understand Hindi, कि हमने सोचने का काम भी उधार का दे दिया है. You know, our government should think on our behalf. And that's why what they're thinking about us, for us, the kind of future they are creating for us, I don't think that's the future we want for ourselves. So these meetings, I feel, also create environment for people to think on their own. Like, for me to be removed for a while from the day-to-day work that I do and take a long view, zoom out. Because what happens is, in the life of a journalist, I am moving from one story to another. एक खबर से दूसरी खबर में चलते चलते जिंदगी गुजर जाती है पूरी. And you don't really get an opportunity to take a zoomed out approach because you're so zoomed in. So day after day, people like me, for the last at least 1 decade, reporting on Narendra Modi's government has been so exhausting. Every day I wake up, I tell my viewers stories of lynching, of, you know, assault on constitution, of people getting killed, of riots in one part of the country or the other, women being raped, farmers not being given their rights, laborers denied their due, women the way they are being treated now. Every single day I wake up and this is what I do. And trust me, मैं थक चुकी हूँ. It is so tiring, it is so exhausting that I do really need to come to such gatherings so that I can get some light, get some energy, get some views and some ideas and take back home. Now, as I said, every single day I wake up more disheartened, more disappointed, more feeling really worried about my future, future of my generation, my future generations, and also people from all marginalized backgrounds. It's just been over 24 hours in the national capital. There was one policeman from Delhi police. He kicked a few Muslims who were offering namaz. They were offering Jummah prayers. Are you aware of that incident? Some of you are, right? Now, imagine you have judges, Calcutta High Court judge, who was a judge a few hours ago. Few hours later, he was a BJP member. You have judges, when he was asked a question, this was a rapid fire round, he was asked a question, who do you choose? Justice, who do you choose? Godse or Gandhi? He took a moment and he said he can't decide. So you have judges who cannot decide whether they will choose a Godse, Gandhi's killer, or the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Now you have policemen who are using violence, assaulting, slapping, kicking people of one religion while they are in the middle of their prayers. They were in the position of sajda, which means they were sitting down on their knees and touching their forehead, to the ground. The policemen kicked him, kicked one person after another, slapped a few. So you have law enforcement personnel who have the job to uphold the Indian Constitution, to protect our rights and our freedoms, judges cannot decide whether they prefer Gandhi over Godse. The policeman is kicking people in the middle of a prayer, and the reason was that these men had a different way of worshipping than this policeman. That these men who were offering namaz belonged to a different religion, they had a different God than the policemen. So these men should be slapped, kicked, assaulted in the middle of the prayers. And I'm surprised that this is the government, this is the ideology that talks about Hindu culture and civilization and faith and Hindu glory. I'm sure there are many people sitting here. How many of you really approve this? Leave aside Constitution for a moment. How many of you really think that this is the conduct of a Hindu, of a faithful Hindu? Do you approve this? So I'm saying even if he did not feel that he was bound by the law, he just thought himself as this, a good Hindu, a Hindu. Which religion, which book, which God really can sanction something as brutal as this? Now, you would think that there should be an outrage over what this policeman did, right? Like many of you are disagreeing with what happened yesterday, 24 hours ago. No. So I tweeted this video, and just to give you an example on what happened afterwards. So I tweeted this video with a few lines that I wrote, and so there are people, okay, so 3.2 million people, they saw this tweet. 3.2 million people. And there were about 8,000 people who retweeted and 7,000 people who replied to this tweet. And you would think that this created maybe an impact on people's minds, and acts like these should not be repeated. Out of these 7,000 people who replied to my tweet, I'm just going to give you some samples of what these people said. So one person says, Alpha Bibi, same andh namazis, like the people who were offering namaz, andh namazis are fined thousands of dirhams in UAE for praying on the roadside. Delhi police is kind enough to let these people go with just a few kicks. There is another woman, she says there are more than 60,000 mosques in India, yet namaz has to be offered on the road. Why? This is one of the softer, I would say kinder, softer comments. Then another one says, clearly visible here is minority communities' contribution in our nation's development by blocking roads, stone pelting, etc. Another one says, the policemen saved their lives by clearing the road. If someone had run them over, you would have blamed policemen for not doing their job. And then there are a few more. One of them says, we should reward the policemen. And so out of 7,000 comments, trust me, at least 6,800 comments would be reflecting the same thought process, which the example of which I've just given you. And right now, I don't know how many of you are on Twitter. Good that if you're not. But if you are, please go to your Twitter and see. Right now, what we see is that there is a Twitter trend already going on. It says, I stand with Manoj Tomar. Manoj Tomar is the policeman who kicked and assaulted and used violence on these people. So this is the kind of India we are living in right now. And I'm not talking about common people, ordinary people, since it's the topic of my talk is religion, constitution, and rights. So this is religion, this is the constitutional duty of our judges. The Calcutta High Court judge, I'm just thinking only, and I'm even dreading to think that the judgments that he passed during the time when he was on this position where he was supposed to protect the constitution, and I think most of his judgments should be re-looked at, because he said he was already in contact with the BJP while he was a judge. Now this policeman, there is a whole support network, and I will not be surprised if tomorrow any of these majoritarian fascist organizations, they invite him and reward him and garland him, and he resigns from his post and is given a BJP ticket. Will you be surprised? So this is what we are doing right now, and there are many people who are arguing that why they were, praying on the road when there are mosques. Now you can discuss this, argue against and for it till the cows come home. I'll give you a small example of Gurugram, Haryana's capital. There, the city is planned in a way that there is no mosque for people who want to pray. There are very, very few mosques there, which means I was talking to a few people, they said the closest mosque is 8 kilometers away. Okay. So the closest mosque, I was told, is 8 kilometers away, and which means once in a year prayer that you do, the Eid prayer, even that people are not able to do. So imagine for people from different faiths, I'm just giving you an example that you want to pray but there is no temple. You want to pray but there is no church. And then when people of Gurugram, they prayed on an already allotted empty spot, empty plot with the permission of police. Even then they were not able to perform their prayers. So this is the state of affairs. So I think gradually what we are doing is that we are moving to a state where all of our rights and freedoms are not taken away yet, but we are gradually moving from a state where we have limited rights and limited freedoms. And especially if you belong to a particular section of the society or particular sections of the society, then you are forced to live a life where your rights and your freedoms are limited. And all of this is happening with the approval. This whole, the atmosphere of limited rights and freedom and this whole assault on our rights and freedom is happening very much with the approval of the society and the highest court of India. If this was not the case, there are three major markers, I say, which signify India's shift from a secular democracy to a theocratic nation, which is Citizenship Amendment Act, reading down of Article 370 from Kashmir, in Kashmir, and the inauguration of the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, inauguration of the temple by him in Ayodhya. These three things, I feel, they mark a significant shift from a secular democracy to a Hindu First Nation. When I'm saying a Hindu First Nation, which means Hindus are fooled into believing that, okay, for now, we are cutting down on rights and liberties of a particular section, but we are giving you a preferential treatment. We are actually establishing your supremacy. And all of these three things have happened, have taken place with the approval of the Supreme Court, and also very much with the society. I wanted to show you a couple of videos, but unfortunately we don't have a system yet right in place. But maybe towards the end we may have a system in place, and we might be able to show you the videos, the samples I've collected from Gujarat and Kashmir and Uttar Pradesh on how much the society has changed. Because as I said, the approval is given by the society as well as the courts. I'll give you some examples of how media is enabling this whole atmosphere before I come down to tell you that how rights and liberties of people, while you are fooled into believing that only सिर्फ Christians के साथ ये होगा, सिर्फ Muslims के साथ ये होगा. I'll give you example on how Uttarakhand में, do you know that there is a uniform civil code? Uttarakhand has become the first state to implement a uniform civil code. पता है आप लोगों को? Right? So this is one example which signifies that the people are fooled into believing that this is only going to happen to Christians, to Muslims, to Dalits, to tribals, but how the rights of the very mainstream people, the middle class, the urban middle class, and more specifically the women, their autonomy over their bodies, over their will, free will, over their sexuality is now decided, undermined, and now decided by the government. I'll come to that in a bit. But here I want to explain why we are allowing this. So I will try to explain मीडिया का रोल इसमें क्या है, मीडिया क्या कर रहा है, दिन रात मीडिया किस तरह की पिक्चर प्रोजेक्ट करता है जिससे people are fooled into believing that yes, a policeman can kick Muslims when they are performing namaz. A railway protection for constable, he went to a few coaches, he searched one coach after the coach for people who visibly looked like Muslims and killed 3 of them. Why we have these individuals? These individuals are only symptoms of a larger problem. Now what media has done? मीडिया ने ये किया है, टेलीविजन, आप, मुझे नहीं मालूम आप में से कितने लोग हिंदी टीवी देखते हैं आप लोग हिंदी टीवी? कुछ लोग देखते हैं. I mean, I feel happy for you that not many of you watch, but I also feel sad that you don't know what's happening in another part of the country. So I don't know whether it's a good choice or bad. I would say sometimes you should really switch on TV and see what exactly is happening in the Hindi heartland. So what media has done it, उन्होंने कुछ दुश्मन तैयार किए हैं. जैसे रावण के सर होते हैं 10 सर, उन्होंने ऐसे 10 सर तैयार किए हैं. उस 10 सर में there are Muslims, there are Christians, there are Dalits, Adivasis, there are English-speaking elite, and to break your heart, those enemies also include people who work for human rights and civil liberties, and people who've come here, gathered here to listen to those people. I'm sure you had some faith in rights and liberties, and that's why all of you have come here. So many of you, and at least one state of South India, Kerala, is also part of that 10 heads. रावण के जो 10 सर थे, उनमें एक सर केरला भी है. And I'm not too sure how long even Telangana can be saved from that image, because now you have opposition government. So the last point I was trying to make is that उन 10 सरों में एक सर Indian National Congress भी है. The main opposition party that is challenging the BJP is also day in and day out, debate after debate, is also portrayed as the enemy of the country. So they start this graph. They will say to people like me, and even to, let's say, people who work for rights and freedom, whoever questions the current regime, they will say, you are anti-Modi. Then you will say, they will say, you are anti-Hindu. Then they will say, you are anti-India. Anti-Modi, anti-Hindu, anti-India. One person has become the nation. He signifies the whole nation now. If you criticize Narendra Modi, you are anti-Hindu, you are anti-India. तो ये 10 सर जो रावण के उन्होंने तैयार किए हैं, इनको हर रोज, मतलब दशहरा तो साल में एक बार होता है, लेकिन यहाँ इन 10 सरों को 3 रोज मारे जाते हैं. So they have created this sense of hurt in the young population of Hindus. They say Muslims are taking away your land, Muslims are taking away your jobs, Muslims are taking away your women, Muslims are doing land jihad. Even this namaz incident was also called that they are trying to occupy the government land, and this is part of land jihad. That's why despite there are enough mosques, despite the fact that there are enough mosques, they still perform on the road, because this is part of some jihad. If there are people who are appearing for UPSC exams, they will say this is UPSC jihad. There are more Muslims who want to clear UPSC exams, so they become bureaucrats and rule over you. So first they say you are uneducated people, you have too many children, you are a burden on the country. But if you appear for, let's say, you get yourself educated, you go to school, you go to college, you appear for UPSC, then you are doing UPSC jihad. So basically they have created a sense of cultural loss. कि ये Muslims, ये Christians are responsible. अगर ये नहीं होंगे तो भारत विश्व गुरु बन जाएगा. अगर ये नहीं होंगे तो मेरे पास जॉब आएगी. मुझे I will get to marry a more beautiful woman. हाँ, मेरी बहुत गुड लुकिंग मेरी क्लासमेट को दूसरा मुस्लिम क्लासमेट लेके चला गया, उससे शादी हो गई, वरना मेरी उससे शादी हो जाती. I would have had more land, I would be more prosperous. So basically this whole idea of Mughals to Muslims, this whole 500-year-old history, where they say Mughals took away this, to now Muslims took away this. तो एक सेंस ऑफ कल्चरल लॉस इतना स्ट्रांग बना दिया है that they have created these 10 heads of Ravan that they need to be killed and they deserve the worst punishment. So when there are cases filed under UAPA, when there is a communal strife and police comes after Muslims, they are killed or they are jailed, or when there are laws like UCC, nobody questions. Because आप तो दुश्मन को सजा दे रहे हैं, आप क्या कर रहे हैं? These are not regular human beings like me or you. They are not my fellow countrymen like you and me. They are the other. The whole otherization of a section of population, creating an artificial enemy and that punishing that enemy. The whole Hindutva fascist ideology revolves around that trajectory. दुश्मन बनाया, दुश्मन बनाने के बाद दुश्मन की पिटाई की, उसको जेल में डाला, उसकी जान ले ली, उसको किक किया, उसको असॉल्ट किया, उस पर वायलेंस किया. And this is how you are establishing one religion supremacy. This is what media is doing day in and day out. These very precious terms like secularism, liberalism, constitutionalism, rights, freedom, equality, world peace. They have demonized these terms and now they are being used as slurs. Seculars are called seculars. Liberals are called libtards. And I can't even name a few more things. These are completely unparliamentary words, so I wouldn't really utter. But just to give you an example, when it was the 1940s, when India decided to become, when we had the chance to decide our destiny, we decided to become a secular country. This was exactly the same time when Pakistan became a Muslim country, when Israel became a Jewish country. We were a poor country, we were a disempowered country, we were a new country, but we had so much confidence, faith, commitment that we decided a different destiny for ourselves. What these people really want is to undo and challenge and question that decision that we took 75 years ago. That's the whole idea. And if you go on Twitter right now, you go on social media, you go to my videos. I'm a video journalist. My job is to deal in the market of opinion, and this is a good thing I feel that I do, but also sometimes I have to be, part of this whole thing, even if I like it or not. Go to any video, any of my videos and go to the comment section. You would know what these people want. They want India to rectify a mistake that it committed 75 years ago. And they are saying that we are on the right path. We cannot do it without the judges who say they cannot decide between Godse and Gandhi, without a railway protection force constable killing people, without a Delhi policeman kicking and assaulting people. These are the individuals who have become now foot soldiers of this Hindutva Rashtra. This is exactly what do they want. Now UCC, Uniform Civil Code. आप में से बहुत सारे लोगों ने फॉलो किया होगा कि क्या हो रहा है. अब यहाँ एज पर दिस यूसीसी, उसके मैगजीन के पोस्टर पे क्या लगा था? मैगजीन के पोस्टर पे था कि Muslims will not be able to marry more than one woman. They said you will not be able to do triple talaq. So on the posters, the poster was of Muslims. The inside, when you went inside the magazine, inside was total disempowerment of women. They say they were doing it for women. Now, if a man and a woman, they want to live together in a live-in relationship, you will have to take permission from the government. You have to register your live-in relationship. आपको सरकार को बताना पड़ेगा कि मुझे ये लड़का पसंद है, मुझे ये लड़की पसंद है. सरकार, क्या मैं इनके साथ रह सकता हूं या रह सकती हूं? Imagine the society we live in. I mean, this is the liberty which was granted by our constitution. Live-in relationship have been upheld by the highest court in this country, the Supreme Court. But the government doesn't agree, neither with the constitution nor with the Supreme Court. अब आप मुझे बताइए, आप में से कितने पेरेंट्स ऐसे हैं जो वाकई ये कहते हैं कि माई डॉटर और माई सन ओवर द एज ऑफ 18, you are really free to live with whoever you want to. So basically the whole idea was to exercise the freedom and liberties granted by the constitution against the will of patriarchy, against the will of society. Now this government is handing over our rights and freedoms and liberties to the government. This is thoroughly anti-constitutional. It's been a couple of months, but there has been, and it has been challenged in court. But I have not heard that there was any proceedings, any movement on that decision so far. So basically, पोस्टर पे वो सामान लगा के अंदर उसके आप कह रहे हैं कि आप जो अल्टीमेट ऑब्जेक्टिव है इनका is to control women. Because a Hindu nation cannot give equal rights to men and women. Please write it somewhere. A Hindu nation cannot be a nation based on equality. It has to be an unequal society. It has to be an unequal nation. Because if you give equality, you cannot build a supremacist, a religious supremacist majoritarian country. Now the last thing I want to say is the apprehensions we have right now. That the same party, if it comes back to power, what happens next? I just told you that even for a citizen like me, for a journalist like me, it has been so difficult to just be me, a Muslim woman journalist. 10 years ago, I never even thought about my social or religious identity. Now, I cannot go without thinking about it even for an hour. Because even if I want to forget it, they do not want me to forget about this. Every time I say something, I write something, it's always about my religion. They attack my religion to discredit me as a journalist, to take away the credibility of a journalist. That don't think of her as a credible journalist, that as another Indian, another journalist reporting. So now what is next? I feel if this party comes back to power, which looks very likely, is that they will try to formalize this discrimination, this inequality that we have witnessed in the last 10 years. I fear, I hope all my fears are not, they don't turn into reality, but I can't be an ostrich. I have to see it for what it is. If the sky is blue, it's blue. If I say it's pink, it's not going to be pink. I don't like what I'm saying, what I'm going to say right now, but my fear, my apprehension is that they will turn a section of the population from the minority community into half citizens or partly citizens. Right now, there are only a few incidents that I'm telling you here, while the Constitution still says that we are equal citizens, everybody is an equal. But I think the mandate, if they get it again, even after 10 years of this violence, injustice, discrimination, assault on Constitution, on democracy, they will try to formalize it and will still call themselves a democracy. And trust me, there are not going to be many people in the global community who will think about us. So when India goes down this deep, dark hole of authoritarianism, I feel it's our battle, our fight, हमारी लड़ाई है, हमें ही लड़नी पड़ेगी, no matter how dark the night is. Are you all ready? You ready to fight? तैयार हैं आप लोग? कितनी भी अंधेरी रात हो? हाँ? So again, as I said, I am going to go back with some hope. Whenever I come to South India, I feel this is also part of India, which gives me hope. A part of the country, people in the north say United States of South India, that you've been able to keep these fascist forces, at least for now, to the margins. I hope you continue to be the way you are and give us hope, faith, inspiration, and healing. Thank you very much.